Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey friends, would you join me just for a minute and just try to imagine how amazing you'd feel living the life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love with people you love in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value for others. Well, that's what I call a life of significance, and I can tell you it makes a very happy life. And so can my friend Chuck Harlander. He's my guest star today again, and he's back to share an update about his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. And today we're going to switch things up a bit from our regular format because Chuck gave us an inspiring episode 134 back in October of 2023, and now he's back for episode 165. And today we're going to talk about the special 2024 summertime series that Chuck created called Stories of Significance with Chuck Harlander. But before I bring him on with my list of questions that I've been so excited to ask him about, I'd like to share a poem that we created to celebrate his encouraging 9-episode series. We call the poem Chuck's Path to Significance, and it goes like this. On trails he runs with hearts in stride, from dog rescues to student's guide, he teaches health, body, mind, and soul for a life of fitness fully whole. 7 principles tried and true, Chuck shares lessons to uplift you, physical strength and mental peace, spiritual depth where worries cease. Join his journey to find your way. His stories will inspire you day by day. A life of meaning, joy, and cheer that'll fill your soul begins right here. So Chuck, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. Happy to have more people join the journey because it certainly has been a lot of fun for me. I learned a lot along the way.
Very good. Well, get us started. I wanted to have you start us off by describing what is this 9-episode series, kind of what's its format, its content, and how you hope listeners will benefit by listening to it.
Stories of Significance started a long time ago when I first read Matt's book. And what stood out to me are the 7 principles of health, the pyramid. And I just that graphic organizer struck out so much to me that now it's become part of my classroom. Because
just briefly, Chuck, just briefly describe it so our audience who hasn't heard it knows what it is.
Okay, so Stories of Significance, after reading the Belief Roadmap, I started to create a lesson for my students and teach them physical fitness, mental fitness, financial fitness, spiritual health, love and adventure, and significance. That this foundation is what builds the opportunity for love and adventure. So after digesting this and lucky enough to have Matt come to the school and talk to the students, the summertime project was, now I need to find the examples in my life for each of the 7 principles of health. And so I just started exploring what are some experiences in my life that connect with those 7 principles, and through the dog rescue, and then my adventures with Students Run LA and running, all the pieces started coming together. And I really believe in that physical and mental fitness combination is really the secret to have that love and adventure in your life. So it started by sharing it with my students, and then, okay, now I want to share it with more people. So I created the podcast and the audio series.
And so describe its format. Is it audio, video only, long, short? So give us the format, and then what's your big hope for listeners who will benefit by listening to it?
So I found out that actually you've written a lot and you think, okay, I have 10, 15 minutes here, but each episode is only about 7 or 8 minutes, and they can be listened to back to back or right in a row. But I follow the formula, starting with physical fitness, and give examples from my life, including growing up with my grandfather who taught physical fitness, and the mental fitness came through teaching And so the 4 foundations, each of them are about 9 or 10 minutes long podcast. So it's short, and I share stories from my family and my personal experiences, whether it's running a marathon or a lesson I'm teaching the kids, financial fitness. Okay, from the perspective of a school teacher, right? And not someone who's made, $30 million in the stock market. So practical advice on financial fitness. And then, interesting enough, the love and adventure in the middle, these episodes turned into 2-part episodes because I
Hmm.
realized there was a lot more to say on these topics of love and adventure, which can't happen if that foundation isn't laid there. And then
Yeah.
significance is just that little piece on the top, because if you have the other principles of health in place, you're going to have the significance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going to be
It's kind
there.
of self manifesting.
Yeah.
So what's your hope when somebody decides to embark on listening to your 9 episodes? What do you think they'll take away from it? What do you hope they'll take away from it?
I hope they take away a connection with one of my stories and look back in their life and say, yes, I do have situations where I showed a lot of courage and a lot of mental toughness and persevered. Or I can remember when it really felt good to be physically fit because I used to exercise, and maybe they've been away from an exercise program for a while and want to get back to it. So that's why I
Mhm.
give the example of start with 1 mile.
Yeah.
To run a marathon, it starts with that first mile, and everyone can take that away. Just start.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the
Very good.
stories happened because I started and I said yes. That the
Yeah.
power of yes is what started this whole podcast series, because we talked about it. I said, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the takeaway.
Very good. All right. Can you take us back before this concept of stories of significance even existed in your mind? And I'd like you to describe, if you can, the moment or the process of how the idea came to you when you first thought of it. And then did you immediately embrace it, or did you try to talk yourself out of doing it? What was that experience like? This is something you haven't done before. And so the idea came. Where did it come from? Tell us about that. And then how did you respond to that idea?
Okay. Um, I embraced the idea as far as it was summertime off, and I embraced the idea of sitting down and writing the episodes. So the writing part, I fully embraced that. And I felt like as the story started coming out, I went back and read the family history, and the writing was a lot of fun. The doubt came in, okay, now it's time to record these episodes. And so I learned lessons on um, audio editing and recording, and it was learning while I was
Mhm.
doing it. And so that was really the interesting thing, is I learned a lot about recording, because I was recording here in my classroom at the
Mhm.
same time at lunchtime, like we're doing right now. It's lunchtime at my school. So there are a lot of challenges to try to get it done. But the example is there's always a way. And even though it was kind of difficult to write them and then get them recorded, we're able to do it. And it was a lot of fun.
And it's exciting learning. It's scary, but it's also exciting learning new skills, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. 10 minutes of record yourself for 10 minutes, but then you're going to be spending 2 hours doing the audio editing and getting it sound just right, or re-recording it, doing a new take because it just
Yeah.
didn't sound right. And so yeah, there's a learning curve for everything, and I'm glad I did it, because now I got my eyes on looking at a voiceover career. I retire after teaching, so now you know you
Awesome.
learn a new skill, and you think, huh, where's this going to take me?
No, it's awesome. And in fact, you don't know this, I don't think, but this was your series was the first time I did all the back end work of taking the published video or audio and pushing it out through all the podcasts. So I've been on this massive learning experience too. And what I found is it's enabling me to do my first work better because I know more about the entire process. And I think that's a lot of what we learn in life. The things that you're learning, you can put together with pieces of other areas. And now, as you've said, oh, here's a new career that I hadn't even maybe thought of, which is the audio recording business.
Right. It's like writing the third draft. As I was writing each episode, of course, I would get a new idea. Well, wait,
Yeah.
this quote from my grandfather would is just what Matt is saying. And Kaizen kept popping up all through the stories. So wait, here's another example. I would read the letters that the Students Run LA runners would send to the
Hmm.
teachers and the donors. And it was a perfect example. The student would say, "Oh, I just learned that I can just build, through experience and running a mile here and 3 miles there and build it up slowly, led me to the point where I can run a marathon." And I learned that lesson. Oh, that it was
Uh,
just so many times the
yeah.
example just fit perfectly into those 7 principles and the topics you discussed, like Kaizen, the power of yes. They kept
Yeah.
coming up over and over again, not just my life, but going back to my grandfather's life and also my
Yeah.
students.
And going, yeah. And so for the folks that might be new and listening, explain what Kaizen is.
Kaizen is a major achievement, but you are breaking it down into small, simple steps. So that's why a marathon is a good example.
Yeah.
Or as a teacher, we have to break the subject down to small, little, manageable pieces and get the kids to understand. So I'm just
Yeah.
starting to read To Kill a Mockingbird. So it's going to take 1, 2 pages at a time for my English
Yeah.
language learners, small pieces. But by the
Yeah.
end of the semester, they're going to understand the story of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Kaizen,
Yep.
just break it down in small pieces.
Yep. Small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And as I learned that, gosh, Chuck, it was probably 30 years ago. And it is such a wonderful thing because there's always something small that you can do better tomorrow than you did today, no matter if you're 10, 16, 61, or 90 years old. It's always available to us. And it's exciting when you wake up saying, now I know what this thing I'm going to improve on. And I can do a little tweak to my audio performance that's going to enable me to save time on the back end editing or what have you. Yeah,
Right. You could
very
spend
good.
that 10 minutes to get started on something. It'll evolve into 2 hours a day without even thinking about it. Just start
Yeah,
with that little
yeah.
bit of time.
Okay, can you think of 2 or 3 things about the creation process, creating and producing the series that surprised you the most?
Uh, what surprised me the most is once I started uh, researching and exploring these topics, I made a lot of connections with different people in my life that would talk about finding your purpose. I mean, we hear a lot podcasts, they'll talk about finding your why and understanding your purpose. What surprised me was I was able to turn around and teach this to my students. They write
Mhm.
personal mission statements. And we have a new principal at the school, and he's talking to the kids about what is their purpose. It's like,
Mhm.
so we made this connection. Okay, here's another person who I've come to meet, and this community of people who want to have happiness as a bigger part of their life. Wealth is good. As my grandfather said, you can have the wealth and achievement, but you have to have the physical health and the mental health and the peace of mind.
Yeah,
So that was the exciting part, that what we really should be striving for, and what these stories taught me as I was researching them, is this is the goal and the purpose, is why we're doing something, not how much money we're going to get from doing it.
yeah, yeah, very good. Um, so how was the students' attitude about going through this process along with you? Was there resistance? Was there acceptance?
There's not resistance, but a lot of like, huh?
Mm,
It's like when I am in my humanities class and I'm teaching them about Stoicism, and we're talking about Marcus Aurelius, and there's another parallel, of course, the Stoic philosophy of don't get too high, don't get too low. Moderation is the key, and that was the theme that has carried on through my family. Um, they were into it, and that's why I have to do things like this first, so they get the
mhm.
idea, an art project. And once they get the idea, okay, So you're asking me to pursue college, not so I'll have a safe career with the financial security, but I really want to pursue something that I love. You know,
Yeah,
do what you love what you do. It
yeah,
was a quote I put in Stories of Significance. I think it's a quote from your books, but that Confucius quote, do what you
yeah,
love what you do. That's it right
yeah.
there. I
That's it
think,
right there.
yeah.
And that gives so much power to a life. That's, that's that base. If you're building up the power with physical fitness, mental fitness, financial fitness, and physical, mental, spiritual, and financial, that gives you the power. But to apply that power to what? And when you find the what, you say, no, what I want to do is this, and I want to build my whole life around. If you figure that out, then it becomes it's thrilling work. Still work, but it's thrilling work.
Yes. And people who are thrilled by their work, then the success is going to come. It will be
Yeah,
there. And yes.
yeah. Okay. Any other surprises? Things that you were, you thought you might know how things were going to be, but like for example, when you first saw your first episode published and you put it out on Facebook, was there anything in that process that surprised you about yourself or about how friends reacted or family reacted?
Yes, there were a couple surprises. One surprise was that as I was promoting, and I put some promotional videos on YouTube, um, some friends were kind of like, no, not interested. Like uh, they felt I was preaching to them, or so there were some negative reactions at first. It's like, oh, I don't need to be preached to. Life is good, and
Hmm.
that was surprising. And it's kind of had to remind them that this is coming from a place of just these are stories that I'm sharing that happened in my life, and the message was they're just examples. You have to follow your own path and
Yeah.
what makes you happy. Um, Another surprise was that for the one person, my father, the best praise was when he said, "Yeah, I sit down and I listen to all the 9 episodes. They really helped me." And my
Oh,
father
great.
saying, "They really helped me." That was the big surprise. So, all right.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny what you said about the resistance, and with our motto or mission of happy living is to improve the happy of the world one person at a time. And so you get that happy one person, and you like with your father. But when somebody says no, thank you, it's like, oh, you're just putting a complete dagger in my heart because I'm not doing this for nefarious reasons. I just want to try to improve people's lives. But it does. It's tough when you get the rejection, isn't it?
Yes, it's tough. And that reminds you that when you are creating, whether it's theater or artwork as an artist, you hear a lot of comedians say this, well, I'm writing this material because I think it's good. And if the audience doesn't see that yet, that's okay. And
Yeah,
that goes with the following the purpose. Go out, create what you want to create because you have the purpose. And it might take a while people to latch on. We're not going to get I'm not going to get 100,000 subscribers. I'm not going to get 100 subscribers from that series, but one person at a time, like you say, listens to it.
yeah,
They share it with someone else. That's okay because the whole experience is worth it, even if only 100 people um
yeah.
were listening.
Yeah, but that's something, Chuck, I've really been working on myself ever since I went from the business world to happy living. It's this idea of just one person. And shouldn't that I mean, if think about it, if you could actually improve the life of a single person, that's a lot. But we're trained and smushed into these things that no, you got to be, you got to have 1 million followers. No, you don't. You need, let's get one, and let's see
Right.
how that goes, and let's build them up, and then maybe we can go from there. So that's great. Okay, lessons learned. Were there? Can you share with us one or two or three of the most important lessons that you learned as you experienced the series creation, and then its publication, and then its consumption, by family and friends, or perhaps even strangers that you may have heard from?
The lesson that I learned was to keep going. It took a lot of time to sit and write each episode, and at times, like I said, the recording process was kind of difficult. But rather than learning new lessons, it reinforced the lessons that had been taught back in college and in theater
Mm,
and here as a teacher. It reinforced the lessons because I kept connecting with the lessons that my grandfather taught me. Like when I
mhm,
spilled the bucket of paint on the porch, I painted my grandfather's house, and he had this bright red paint for the steps so you don't slip on them. And I I spilled the entire gallon of paint on the steps. And what he said was, put your paint in a small container so that if you
mhm.
spill it, you only spill a little bit. And all those lessons kept coming back. So go can it's important, journal, go back, write about or think about, meditate on your previous experiences in your life from childhood, and they are going to help you see the future. You go back and remember the lessons of parents and grandparents, and think back on the stories. So appreciate grandparents and the stories and the
Yeah,
lessons they teach. That's it
yeah.
right there.
And you mentioned something important, and I remember talking to your classroom about, hey, guys, there's nothing I can tell you that you don't already know or you can't look up in about 2 seconds. So it's not about information. It's really more about motivation. And what you said reminded me of how I've spent most of my life in terms of when I read things. It's not so much that I'm learning something new, but I'm learning a way to express it even to myself sometimes. Say, oh, this is now I can understand this concept better using this structure of these words. And so can just talk a little bit about that, because you said you didn't learn new lessons, but you reinvigorated lessons that you had already known. And while you do that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be acting strange in the background, putting my puppy in her. This Thanksgiving, let's make a difference for the people of Marshall, North Carolina. Hurricane Helene hit them hard, but together we can give something back. Join us for Project Thanksgiving in Marshall. It'll be a day of food, fun, and friendship dedicated to uplifting this resilient community. Your support can bring joy, hope, and an unforgettable Thanksgiving to those who need it most. Visit happyliving.com and click donate to make a difference. Let's come together to spread love, gratitude, and community spirit, one meal at a time. I'll be
Okay, I
right
see
here.
that.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I see the
Come,
puppy there,
get
and
in here.
she's so
Get
cute
in there.
running around. Um, I think it is that top of the pyramid significance, because a lot of teachers nowadays are very frustrated and they don't really see their role as significant. And my friend Jose Olivas, he just put it so well that um, teaching is significant. Every job is significant.
Yes.
Starting your own company and you have 20 employees because you started this company, that's significant because those 20 people have a job and a place to go and a great place to work because you started that little salon or that little cafe on the corner. So the significance doesn't mean millions of dollars, big house. Significance means you are making an impact on other people. That eudaimonic happiness that I came across, Dr. James Doty. That's it. I mean, I came across so many things because I started questioning. How is a teacher going to explain financial fitness? you know?
Yeah,
But then I thought, well,
but
hold on a second. You know,
yeah.
we're not making millions of dollars, but we're secure
So
and got enough to take care of our means, take care
yeah,
of our needs.
yeah. Finance gets people really twisted up, I think. We've got this love-hate relationship with money and finance and wealth and all this. Not it's For me, it's not nonsense. It's important. Um, Financial security is having currency to do what you want to do in life. So you could be living out in the woods, completely in the wilderness, completely disconnected from modern society, and you would have a different form of currency. It would be your skills to hunt and to fish and to cook and to protect yourself. and you would still need currency to provide for your life, and money is no different than that. So if you want to be a teacher and you want to live out in Acton, California, where it's a little less expensive, and then you can make different choices and have less money because you're using other currency to subsidize the money. But if you want to live in downtown New York in a fancy apartment, you got to have some cash, lots of cash. And so that's, I think it's really about, and you've touched on it, it's providing, it's having the power you need to take really good care of yourself and your family and have a little bit more left over so you can be a giver to others. And that might be $1 gazillion, and that might be $150. It's you decide.
It's how you look at it. It's like, I think you experienced when you were here, is I can just be frustrated sitting in traffic on the freeway with my longer commute because we chose to live out in Acton. But I take the mountain road that you see every time you see a video test driving a new Porsche or something on the TV commercials. My daily commute is a beautiful mountain drive because I can go this way and enjoy a peaceful morning, and I'm not on the freeway. I'm going to a beautiful mountain road, and that's it. It's just, you can find ways to make your life beautiful.
Yep. And for me, that's a form of currency. You've figured a way of reducing your expenses by moving out there, and then not paying for it for the long commute, but benefiting from the long commute by finding a different route and also a different mindset as you're doing it. Yeah, it's great. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to see if you've talked about your dad reading that had to be a very significant highlight, but what would you say outside of that is the most significant highlight that you experienced from your 9-episode summertime series?
The most significant aspect, I think, came from, I realized I had a lot of stories, and now I have to keep going. I have to find other stories to tell, and because it reinforced the purpose that I started. I talked about my purpose in the stories of significance, communicating great ideas to people. So I'm retiring as a teacher this year. So how am I going to communicate great ideas to people? And the lesson is, I have to keep doing that through writing, podcasts, whatever it is. The lesson learned is I can keep pursuing this purpose for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. That's a great outcome. Now, how do you think others can figure that kind of thing out through this program? Because one of the things I love this discussion because you read the book, you said, oh, that's interesting, but you didn't just stop there. You started applying it to your own life and say, I wonder if I can bring it in here into the classroom. And you did that. And then, oh, I wonder if I can put it into a summertime series, and did that. Now you're rolling it out into maybe the rest of your life, which is awesome. So how would you encourage others from your experience to say, I can't tell you it's going to be this or that, but find what it is that gets you excited, because I can tell you're excited about this. Find what it is that gets you excited, that you want to spend the rest of your life trying to get better and better and better at it so you can help others.
Just go from helping others, because through the reason I had stories to tell is because I've said yes to opportunities. My wife and I starting the rescue kennel started because we volunteered to walk dogs. So everything that I talk about in stories like significance of this podcast series, they would not have happened if I had said no, or just, I don't have time. I'm not sure how it's going to fit in. So the message is, start small, but say yes, and go down that creative path just a little bit and see where it takes you, because that has paid off so many times. Let's try this. Let's see where it takes us. And it's taken us out in the country, this beautiful community out in Acton, California. And that's what I want to keep doing, communicate to everyone else that, take that risk and give it a try. Trust your instincts.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned two things, and risk is one of them that I want to get into next, risk and fear. but you also mentioned creativity. And I'm finding more and more, Chuck, that that's one of the most powerful components of building a life of significance, or finding your reason to be on this planet. It's in the creative process. And you can be creative as a teacher or as an auto mechanic or as a banker or as a janitor. You know, we think of the creatives as just arts and music, but that's not true. We are all of us who are jacked up with life are creating. So talk about the creation process and what that means to you, and then I want to come back to risk and fear.
Well, the creation process came from experience in theater, I would say, an actor training, and the creative process. I'm thinking about my own children, a daughter who works in commercial real estate, and a son who is an engineer. Engineering, commercial real estate, not what you would think of as, creative endeavors. But then how did this creativity, from my genes go into my children? Because while Grandpa Al was in business, executive Safeway, grandmother was playing ragtime piano beautifully on the piano.
Oh,
And the creativity, the
I didn't know that.
creativity, creativity always came into the family. It wasn't pursued as a career, but a lot of creativity. My daughter was an actress and she was in musicals in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So we have a connection through theater and through drama. But she took the talent she had on the stage and uses it in her career because she's the dynamite personality and her communication skills are awesome. And that's why she's so successful there in Austin, Texas. That's another connection we have. They keep on coming up. That's why she's successful, because that creative side that she explored in high school and college drama.
Yeah. So if you want to create something new, it might not work. There is a risk. It might be a colossal failure. So what fear or fears did you face in this endeavor that you had to ultimately overcome? What was, to give us the big, scary, fearful things that you dealt with?
I didn't have enough material for financial health. And then I felt like got to the top of the pyramid, significance. Okay, this is going to be the best and brightest finale episode. And sorry, we're live here at school. Things are happening. And it's like, I felt like significance. I still, I'm afraid that it felt the significance for myself. I think people from the outside will look at, what your career and what you're doing as a teacher or the running. It really inspires me. But we might be the last people to feel it inside ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So my fear is that I'm not appreciating the opportunities that I have to live out and act in. And I have to do better just to, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, but I don't know. Fear, I'm lucky that I'm afraid that my mechanic here is going to call me like 5 more times. I guess, you know why? Because as a teacher starting elementary school and teaching special ed, I was afraid. And after 7 years of going through that experience, I just learned that fear doesn't do any good. So you just,
Correct.
you turn the fear into something else.
Yeah. And fear, by the way, is not even real. It's
Yeah.
it's made up. Unless there's a bear chasing you, that's real, and then the body reacts. But the body reacts that same way to a made up fear. That's your thought about what might happen. And so you said more gratitude. One of my favorite quotes I saw in the back of a brewery: the days that my gratitude is higher than my expectations, those are really good days. And so a lot of fear comes from expectation, not from the reality of what is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know
Right.
we're going to be pushed with your academic schedule there, so I want to move on to the big one, legacy. And I wanted to ask you about your legacy, and thinking about this question reminded me of something I wrote in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action. And it was chapter 14, where I described my own Viking funeral. Do you remember reading about that, Chuck?
Yes, I read about your Viking funeral on the lake in the wooden box on the paddleboard.
Very good. So I'm curious to see if you feel about your stories of significance the same way I feel specifically about writing my books. And here's what I wrote, and just a small section of what I wrote in that chapter, as if I was talking to the reader from my own funeral on July 4th, 2064, at the ripe old age of 103. It's only 2 paragraphs, but I said it took me the first half of my life, more than 54 years, before I discovered my calling to write books. I was sitting in my summer office overlooking our lake, and I made a lifelong commitment to transform myself into an author. I remember the passing of my mentor, my Dow mentor, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, on August 29th of 2015. And I continue reading his words of wisdom for nearly 50 years after he died, all the way up to my peaceful passing in 2064. If the lessons in my books could help even one person after I've completed this physical life, it will give meaning to every hour I spent writing these past 48 years. So, Chuck, your stories of significance, they're in the can now, and they can be heard tomorrow and next year and next month and next decade. And they may continue to inspire people long after you departed from this earth. So, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great, and it makes me want to write more. And the novel is in here, the novel is up here, and it's a matter of having the time and sitting down and having that discipline, so that by the time you've written your 4th book, I'll have written my first novel. Okay.
There you go. Very good, very good. Okay, and that thinking, that kind of joyful optimism that you're expressing there, that's what the show is all about. It's finding magic in your life and living in that magic. And it's about creating the power you need to take really good care of yourself and your family and get things done. It's also about discovering and living your purpose. What is your reason for being on this planet? Finding that and living in it. And then the big kicker, and we talked about a lot, Chuck, and it's in your series all over the place, is giving to others, lifting them up, helping them live their best lives too, even after you may be long gone, which is kind of an exciting concept. So we call that our happy formula, and you know it. Power times purpose times giving equals happy to the 3rd power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy. Has that process been working in your life, Chuck, since you embarked on this new venture?
It has been very motivating, and I can see the big picture much easier now. In the classroom, if the students are having a rough day and they're a little noisy, I'm focusing on the big picture and remembering the purpose, and going back and remembering each little story. I have to mention it started with one little story because one person did one thing. Our woodshop teacher had little baby food jars with severed fingers in the jars. And that was his lesson, to keep our fingers out of the sauce. That was the first story I told, and I think it's still my favorite.
Mr. Huff,
So
long live.
Go listen to the story of Mr. Huff.
And that's an example of legacy. That he didn't put that in a blog post, but he touched enough people that long after he's gone, I don't know if he's gone. Do you know if he's gone?
No, I don't know.
I don't know either, but long after he's gone, we're going to remember that story. You
Yeah,
and me and
yeah,
many others.
yeah.
That's what it's about. Very good. Okay, let's wrap things up, the lightning round. You know I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and have you, Chuck, tell us what they mean to you. Just give us the first thing that comes to your mind, because we call this a lightning round. And I've selected these particular quotes from some of the world's greatest thinkers: Confucius, Epictetus, Leonardo da Vinci, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, an unnamed student runner from Student Run Los Angeles, Grandpa Al, and you, Chuck Harlander, the creator of Stories of Significance. So here we go. I'm going to start with yours. Stop and relax and realize you're exactly where you should be.
Yes, stopping, and that's the important part there. Stop and just look around and be in the moment. I called it a memory photo. Instead of taking a picture, Just look around and say, okay, I'm taking a picture of this moment right now. Click. There, just did.
Beautiful. This is from Grandpa Al. He said, better than grandeur, better than gold, better than wealth 100-fold are a healthy body and a mind at ease and simple pleasures that always please.
Simple pleasures that always please. You look, an example is, I think it was Jerry Seinfeld and Jimmy Fallon were out on a little Boston whaler boat and having the time of their life, multi-million. And that's it. Simple pleasures are still the best.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. This is from that unnamed student-run Los Angeles student. She was heard saying, I find myself running with my heart when my legs are betraying my mind.
That was yesterday when my back was hurting and I was on mile 8 and I was determined to do 9 and I did. Is that you keep going for your heart and don't focus on the ground, focus on the mountains around you and just keep going.
Now, translate that from running into life.
Is that your heart is going to guide you in the right place. And when you're tired, just trust your heart that it'll help you keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll still be tired and exhausted and in pain, but it's different because you're doing what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
From Confucius, he says, do what you love what you do.
I'm loving it. I'm doing it, and that's a quote that I follow. But be true to that. Love it means that everything you're going to do, you may not love it, but you can find a way to love it. Like I tell the students, when you're washing the dishes, find a way to make it fun. Put on the headphones, listen to some music, dance around while you're washing the dishes.
Yeah,
Love what
all
you
of
do.
these, yep, all of these things, and that one in particular, they all have ripples because if you're living your life doing what you love and loving what you do, and other people see it, they're drawn to that, and it affects them. So in a sense, you're actually giving to others by doing what you love and loving what you do.
Yeah, I agree. I
This is
think,
from,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Now I was going to say, and I mentioned my son earlier. Now he's living in Colorado and he's out there running trails now. I didn't tell him to or coach him to, but I'm sure I had some influence on the fact that he's out there and killing on the trails in Colorado.
Yeah, awesome. This is from the Greek Stoic philosopher, and Epictetus. Is that how do I say
Epictetus.
it? Epictetus. And he said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude towards it.
Yes, every reactions are a choice. It's like, at school and the teacher saying, yeah, there are consequences for your actions, but your reactions are also your choice. And that's why I teach Stoicism at the beginning of the school, because everyone's going to have obstacles in the way. The obstacle is the way. And negative people in your life, instead of, cursing that they're there, see them as an opportunity to get around or, navigate around that negative person till you find that positive person on the other side.
Yeah, good, good. This is from the great Leonardo da Vinci. And he said, as a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so a life well used brings happy death.
This was one of my running meditations. I was thinking about, the quote, I'll rest when I'm dead. I was thinking about, you see that beautiful plushy couch and you want to go spread out on that couch right now. There's going to be time to lay on that plushy pillow couch when it's a casket. So get up and go do something.
Yeah.
So, the time for that Viking funeral will come soon enough. So, and I'm not going for 103. I'm going to go for 100, not 103.
Very good. Okay, and this is our show anchor. Of course, it's from Goff. He says, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Yeah, boldness has genius in it because no genius has ever achieved, the greatness that we've all heard about. if they didn't take a lot of risks along the way and face a lot of persecution and criticism. You have to be bold to achieve greatness.
Yeah, yeah, very good. All right, now, folks, it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Chuck Harlander, please share some love with our amazingly talented broadcast team by giving what you can to WYTV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Chuck, I love the inspiration and the love that you poured into creating these 9 original and power-packed episodes of Stories of Significance. And I admire your passion for encouraging others along their journey to making their marks of significance on the world by sharing your journey with them. And I'm super happy
That means
that the
lunchtime is
bell,
over. That's the bell. Good timing.
and I'm super happy that you've shared your gentle, tenderhearted, and yet incredibly powerful spirit on our show today. Would you share a parting remark or two that you'd like to give to our audience?
Speaking of Epictetus, my humanities class is coming into the classroom in about 5 minutes. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I encourage everyone to read Matt's books and check out Stories of Significance. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, very good. All right, we'll wrap up before the kids come in. Thank you, Chuck. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Chuck and reaching folks just like you ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you to our viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Chuck Harlander. Find him, friend him, have a listen to his inspiring series called Stories of Significance with Chuck Harlander. You'll find all of it in our show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you, and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and download our free mini but mighty ebook called Making Your Mark of Significance. And once you read it, and it really only takes about 30 minutes or so, then give some thought about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show.